End is like so close. You can almost. Is there anybody who's like done? Hey, congratulations! I'm so happy for you. So today I am going to be speaking on idolatry. Can anybody define for us what idolatry is? Please put it up right because I can't move to the next page. Anyone? Sorry, my phone. Thank you. Yes, at the back. Oh, Imla, yes. Exactly. It is giving authority to something or worshiping something. So today that's what we're going to be talking about, idolatry. I have defined it as anything that we give the devotion or adoration or affection and worship that we owe to God. So obviously because God is the creator of the universe, he's our father, and he's really everything that we need. He gives us everything that we need. He protects us. He takes care of us. And then we go on to give our devotion. We go on to spend time with other things, right? So it can be anything that we consistently choose over God. So if there's something that you love so much that at any point you're ready to choose it over God, whether it's in giving your time to it, it's giving your resources to it, or your body or your attention. And the thing is, often we do it so subconsciously that we do not know that we are idolizing something. But when you get to that point where you like love something so much that you don't realize that you love it more than God, that's when it's real idolatry, and that's when it's a real problem, right? So can someone read for us from Exodus chapter 20, verses 4 to 6? Anyone? Yes, Hannah.
You shall not make yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments.
Exactly. So it says you shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything. So it doesn't matter what it is, for as long as it is existing in the heavens or on the earth or in the waters, you can't bow down and worship that thing. And worship is not just singing. Worship is giving your devotion, giving your time, showing much of your loyalty to that thing. So an idol can be made of anything. It can be anything, and sometimes it's, especially for us, it can be something that is intangible. So we know for the Israelites, right? They used to disobey God, and it was with like physical structures, right? They would make figurines, and some of them were coming from like the foreign lands, the people that they encountered as they were going to the promised land. So the Canaanites, all of those people, they had beings that they worshipped, and the Israelites would often adopt those as gods. So like we have the likes of like Moloch. Who knows Moloch, the god? Yes.
Is the one that allows children sacrifice?
Exactly. So the Israelites, they just decided, oh, the Canaanites do this thing where they take babies and then they put it into the hands of Moloch, and then Moloch burns them. And when that happens, then they get rain and food and things like that. There was Baal. So there's like all of these gods that they would worship, and they were physical. And often I would look at them and think, these people are really silly, because how do you like make something out of metal and decide to worship it? Like, you made it for yourself. It has never made you. It doesn't have the capacity to make anything or to build anything or to do anything for you. And I don't know. I don't, reading the first 5 books is just really interesting, because I kind of think these guys are not really smart, because any little influence that they get from an outside party or an outside group of people, and God has told them multiple times, do not worship their gods. But any little inconvenience, any little thing that makes them feel uncertain, they're creating a god and worshiping it. Like when Moses went up the mountain and he was with God and for some days, and they were like, we don't know if he's coming back. So they decided, let's make a golden calf and we'll worship that, right? And a lot of the time, God told them time and time again, I do not want you worshiping foreign gods. I do not want you making anything for you to worship, because obviously it's quite silly, right? And the reality is, the reason why we desire to worship so much is because we were made to worship. We were made with an innate desire to worship. Every single person who walks the earth was created by God. Regardless of what they believe, they were made with an innate desire to worship. And that's why there's foreign gods, because everybody has a God-shaped hole and it needs to be filled with something. So half the time, people don't realize that what they ought to worship is God. And God gave us free will, because for us to truly love him and to worship him, it has to be a choice. He's not a forceful God. He's a gentleman. So he gave us free will, but he still gave us the innate desire to worship. And so if we do not know what we're supposed to worship, we'll worship anything. We can make it for ourselves. It can be something that he gives us. And that's why there's foreign gods. And so the issue with the Israelites is that they were often depending on the relationship that other people had with God. For example, God's relationship with Moses, God's relationship with Elijah, they depended on that. And that's why they often kept on going back to the gods that they were worshiping. And so that tells you that if you do not have a relationship with God, you will never fully understand the purpose of God in your life. And you'll never fully understand what it is that God really does in your life that nothing else and no one else can do. And that's why these guys, they constantly went back to gods as if they had never seen God guiding them. As if when they were in the wilderness, they didn't see the fire that led them by night and the cloud by day. As if they had never experienced the goodness of God. As if they had never been freed from the Egyptians. They had seen all of that, but because of the lack of a relationship with God, it was very easy for them to just go to the next thing, because they still had the innate desire to worship, but they just didn't know exactly who they were supposed to worship. On the other hand, for us, it's a little different, because I don't think anybody here has like a figure at home or like a statue or like a wooden thing that they like worship on a daily basis and offer sacrifices to. Can I confirm that that is right? Yeah. So we don't do that. And the difference with us is, at the end of the day, God still knows. The posture of our hearts kind of remains the same, because we still have an innate desire to worship, and God sees the posture of our hearts. And sometimes we don't know that we are worshiping things. Sometimes it's in the good things. At least like when we look at the Israelites, we're like, they're worshiping something that takes child sacrifices. It's clearly bad. It's clearly evil. It's clearly like inhumane, right? But for us, a lot of it is because we know that obviously you can't worship something that is bad, something that is really contrary to the commands of God like that. We don't know sometimes that we're idolizing things, because it can be good things. Sometimes good things are very easy to idolize. So I want us to quickly go through the story of Abraham. So I'm not going to read it from scripture. I'm just going to summarize it. Abraham was called by God, and he lived in a land with his family where they worshipped foreign gods. They were idol worshippers. And God called him out and said, I will be your God and you will be mine. And so he followed God, right? And God led him to do certain things that were different from what he was doing before. And God promised him that he would be a father of nations, right? And it was crazy, because Abraham was old. His wife was past the age of conceiving to have a child. And so it was something that would have to be a miracle. And still he went on worshiping God, moving with God, and listening to God, and hoping for this promise to happen, even though at some point they kind of fell and had a child that was out of the promise of God. However, still God did fulfill that promise, and then he had a son, Isaac, which was the son of the promise, right? And then sometime later, God decides, okay, I want you to go up this mountain and I want you to sacrifice your only son, Isaac. which is kind of crazy because all of this while I've been walking with you and you've told me you're going to give me a son who's going to be the son of all nations, and I only have one son. So if you take away the one son that I have, how am I going to be a father of nations, right? Because that's who the promise is supposed to come through. And we often relate to Abraham as the father of faith because he had such great faith that he said he would do it anyway. He would go up with Isaac because he reasoned that obviously if God gave me a son out of a barren womb, then he can probably raise this son to life even if I'm to follow what he has instructed me to do. But it was more than just a test of faith. Abraham came from a land of idol worshippers. So it was very easy for him to default to being an idol worshipper by worshiping the son that God had given him. Because if you have been wanting something for such a long time, if you've been wanting something, you've been praying for it, and you've been fasting for it, and you've been hoping for it, and then one day you get it, it's very easy for you to one day be like, okay, this is the most important thing in my life. I'm just going to devote my life to making this son the greatest son ever, and besides, he is the son of the promise. So I'm going to make sure that he's healthy. I'm going to abandon everything else to make sure that he's healthy. And that's how he becomes an idol. But no, he went and he said to God, I will do as you say, right? So that's the very same thing. I know that a lot of us have like things that we desire, things that we want, right? And sometimes you will find that you will pray and pray and pray and pray for something because you really want it and it would change your life and it would do so much for you, but God does not give it to you. But that's only because he knows that if he's to give it to you, he might lose you because you will give your devotion to that other thing. And if he takes it away, you're going to be disappointed and go back and hate God for it. So sometimes it's for our own good, it's for our protection when we don't get the things that we want, because we need to be prepared to have certain things in our possession. For God to give us stewardship of something, he has to be able to trust us that we're not going to go out of our way to worship that thing and make it a God in our lives instead of giving our devotion, time, and everything to God himself. So I want us to, like, based off of that description of what idolatry is, whatever that we give our time, resources to, that we constantly choose about God, what do you think are the common idols that we have? And if anyone is brave enough to share what is an idol that they think they have and they have to deal with, you can share that as well. Let's go. Yes. That's true. And they're called idols too. Anybody else? Yes. Pardon? Academic success. Anybody else? Yes. Social media. Let's go. Another one. Yes. Pardon? Your friends. Yes. Yes. Your phone. That's real. So a lot of us have idols, and sometimes we don't realize it, right? Because it's like such an innocent thing, but we don't realize how much it changes us, and we don't realize how much we give up things just to satisfy that, or at least because we believe it satisfies us. Because at the end of the day, the whole idea of an idol is it's giving you something that God is supposed to give you. So sometimes you depend on it more than you depend on God. So for example, if it's your phone, you might depend on it to give you, like, joy, talking to your friends. It makes you feel peaceful, protecting your peace and stuff like that. It can be your academics because you want to do so well, but sometimes it can become the main point of your whole life. I was like that. I think at some point, not even that I knew, like, academic success was like a really important thing for me. I would sacrifice almost everything, time with family, because it mattered to me that I got good grades. But in the end, it didn't. Yeah. You can get everything that you want from it. For me, it was just, and I did get good grades, it's true, but it didn't really bring me the satisfaction that I needed until it got to a point where what I only needed was God, and nothing else could help me. Nothing else could give me satisfaction. Nothing else could pull me from a dark place. Only God. Academic success was out of the door. So, yeah. So Unfortunately, the thing is, when we make idols, I know that there's something that we hope to get from having idols, right? So sometimes it's, like peace, comfort, and stuff like that. But sometimes they don't actually do anything for us, right? If you've been like lonely all your life and suddenly you have a friend, sometimes it can be easy to like put all your effort into making sure that friendship lasts forever and it's perfect and you never mess up and everything. But you don't give the person who has offered you friendship the room to be a person. They become your God because you have so many expectations of them to fulfill the hole that is in your heart, until you can't take care of them properly anymore and they have to walk away because you have put too much on them. There's only one who can carry a certain weight. There's only one who can carry God weight, and that's God. You can't put God weight on people, otherwise they fall and crumble under pressure. It's like, for example, I've heard like stories of like women who struggle to have children, right? And then one day they have like a miraculous child and they want to do so much for that child. But because you know how like sometimes it gives them that fulfillment that, okay, I'm a mother, that makes me a woman now, right? But they put so much on those children that those children crumble under the pressure of a mother who's just trying to feel like something. But the reality is our identity is anchored in God. It can't be anchored by the things that we achieve or the things that God has given us, because they're not God. They will never take the place of God, and that's why we depended on God to give us something in the first place. Sorry. Okay, so the next thing that I want to move on to is how idols have root sources in our hearts, right? So this one, I really want us to think about it deeply, and especially for all of us, because I know that a lot of us have things that we deal with, and somehow we don't realize, but those things are how we end up having idols in the first place. The Bible tells us from Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, above all else, guard your heart for everything that you do flows from it. And I know some people have had difficult childhoods. Some people have had terrible experiences, and some people have things that they never had to see when they were children. Some people have been abandoned. Some people were rejected all their lives. Some people have had to prove all their lives that they're good children and that they're worthy to be loved and things like that, right? I don't know. Maybe it's not you, but you know someone who is like that, right? Like, there's people who have been body shamed all their lives. Have we met people like that? Or people who were bullied? And when you go through things like that, it kind of produces something in you, right? Some people are able to get above it, but some people are not. But the issue, and what I want to go to, is where people get above it. How you get above it is really important. It's so important how you get above a situation where you have felt rejected, where you felt unloved, where you felt like a misfit. Because, for example, somebody gets body shamed, right? And then they learn, okay, so for me to be in better shape, I need to maybe go to the gym, work on my body a bit more. And then they do that, and then they get like a T body and everything. And like, it seems like life is like well for them now. And you would think that that is going to, fulfill them. But you find that sometimes people end up having an obsession, right? Like, some people are so obsessed, like going to work out and going to the gym is a great thing. But it becomes a problem if, like, they go crazy if they don't get to go to the gym, because that's what they have tied their identity to. They have a fear that if anything is to happen, they'll get back into the position where they were body shamed. Or people who have been rejected and suddenly they get like this amazing girlfriend who loves them, and they never thought that they would score such a girl, right? And then they do. And now they have to do everything in their power to make sure that they keep that girl, because they have tied their identity to that girl. Because that's what gives them like the recognition. That's what kind of like makes them feel like they've suppressed those emotions and feelings of rejection. Or people who have felt like, I'm not the best child in the family, so the best thing that I can do is make sure that my grades are right so that my parents are proud of me. And so they really need that academic validation so bad. They do everything to get it. Some people are There's people who are competitive, and then there's people who are super, super competitive because there's something that they need to prove, and their whole identity is tied to that. They get so angry when they get bad marks because they can't imagine what happens if they fail. There's people like that. And the problem is that's how sometimes we get idols that we don't realize. We don't realize it's an idol because it seems like such a good thing. Life seems to be moving well. People like me now. People look at me now. I'm attractive. I'm now, like slim, or I'm now buff, right? But the cost of maintaining that is you sometimes having to forsake your relationship with God because you'd rather spend hours at the gym because there's something that you need to keep up. Or you'd rather spend hours scrolling on the internet because you're popular and that's all that matters. That's what you've tied your identity to, and not God. And so it's important what we allow to get into our hearts. I know sometimes it's really difficult. It's really difficult when people have so many things to say to you, or when people have high expectations of you. But you have to mind what you allow into your heart, because when you allow those emotions into your heart and you allow for them to define you, then how you get out of it might cause you to have idols that are not God. And you might tie your identity to other things. And the unfortunate thing is when that thing crumbles, you will crumble as well. And getting up will be very difficult because you have forsaken your relationship with God, because you found something else that gave you an identity, something that gave you a standing around people. Right? So I really want you guys to go and think about what it is that you have sat within your heart, right? Things that you've never told anybody sometimes, things that you've had to deal with on your own, but you've kind of found a coping mechanism. And it seems that that coping mechanism has been working, but you know that if you let it go, things are going to fall apart for you. I need you to think about that, because that's how you will identify an idol. And you will need to reshape that and say, God, I'm going to give this into your hands, and I'm going to surrender it into your hands, because it's not going to give me any salvation. And that the truth is, it's not going to give you the salvation that you need. It's not going to give you the satisfaction that you need. At the end of the day, it's just a thing. It doesn't have the capacity to do anything. You've put it on a pedestal. Have you seen how people get so disappointed when a celebrity that they like does something that is off? Like, people get so disappointed. It's almost like they knew this person personally, but they didn't. But it's because they tied so many expectations to this person who is not God. Nobody is perfect. So we can't put the expectations that we put on God on people, because people are fallible. Everything is fallible. Only God stands. That's why we go to God to ask for anything anyways, because he's the only one who's able to give us anything and everything. And not only the things that are tangible, but also the things that are intangible. Only God can give us peace that surpasses all understanding. Only God can give us love that maybe sometimes you feel unloved by your family. Only God is going to give you that kind of love. If you go on to depend on another person to give you that kind of love, you might get abused because you're so desperate for it. And when you have an idol, you can be so blinded that you don't see that you're in a trap. You don't see how abused you are. So, we're going to move on to how to identify idols. Does anyone want to try? How can you identify an idol? Yes, Uncle Jason. Your time and attention. Yes? Yes. Another thing. Anybody else? Yes? How much they influence you or the people around you. That's good. So, excuse me. So, sometimes when you have an idol, God will reveal it to you straight up. I know for myself, when I've been so fixated on something, God will kind of give me a hint, and I will need to do a reflection, and I will 10 times out of 10 realize that, yes, I have been idolizing this thing. I have been spending too much time on my phone, and when I check my screen time on my Bible compared to my Instagram, there is a big difference, and it's telling. Another thing is when you hold on to something so much and you can't let it go. Like, you just cannot let it go. You can't imagine your life without it. Like, you've been asked to give away something. Let's say you've been asked to give away your phone. Like, it's a no. it might take some time. That's how you know you've got an idol, because you've tied so much to that thing that you can't imagine your life without it, even though it might be for the greater good if you get rid of it. Sometimes it causes you to get out of character, right? Like every other time in your life, fruits of the Spirit, very evident. But the moment that thing gets touched or mentioned, you get out of character. It's like, who are you? Another thing, you will choose it over spending time with God, like has been said. Like, okay, there's a football match, but I haven't read my Bible in a while, so I'm going to do that. But the moment you hear, yeah, you're out, and that's it for the day. You're not coming back. Even though you've committed. Guys, spending time with God is like, kind of like when you go on a date and someone stands you up. Like if you have put in your heart that I'm going to spend time with God today, and then you decide no, you've basically decided this is more important than God. You've stood God up and God is just there, chilling, waiting for you. And he's just so merciful because he's going to show up the next day. But how would you feel if you're the person who's always to show up on dates? Right. So we're going to move on to how to kill idols. This is how we kill idols. The first thing, like we said, guard your heart above everything. For everything you do flows from it, right? I want to tell you guys about the story of Leah. Who knows Leah from the Bible? Oh, guys, that's crazy. That's like very common. Yes, Leah, Rachel's sister. She was not pretty. And for a long time, she had been rejected because nobody wanted to marry her. Now her younger sister was going to get married before her. And when she got married to Jacob, it was a setup. That's how bad it was. It had to be a trick for her to get married to somebody else. So imagine how she felt all her life, knowing that her younger sister is prettier, and then she got married to somebody who didn't really love her. So it was crazy, but at least God gave her the ability to have children, right? And she thought if she has children, then her husband is going to love her. Then she had a child, and he didn't love her. Then she had another one, and then he didn't love her still. But he was her idol because that was the only source of love that she was going to get for her to feel validated in life. And then finally, she realized that this is not going to get me anywhere. Then she had a son, Judah. And then she said, I'm going to praise the Lord. Because she realized, Jacob ajibada. And she decided, I'm going to praise the Lord this time. And what happened when she did that? Judah became the one from which Jesus came from. That's how God just restores you, when you put your trust in him and not in other things. So I want you to ensure that you guard your heart above everything else that you do. Because how you end up having idols, a lot of the times is tied to these emotions that you keep suppressing and the traumas that you keep yourself tied to, the things that you identify yourself with, my anxiety, my depression, my trauma. Those things are not yours. They don't belong to you. And you have to let them go. You can't tie your identity to those things, and you can't tie how you behave or what you look for to those things. Those things don't define you. God didn't create you with those things. God knew you when he formed you in the womb, and when he knew you at that time, he didn't put a side of depression and a side of anxiety in the womb with you. It was just you. So those things are not yours, and I want you guys to really stop claiming that. Never say this is my anxiety just gets so bad. No, it's not yours. My depression, no, it's not yours. My trauma, no, it's not yours. That's how the enemy deceives you into getting idols that you don't realize that you have. The second thing, I want you to fill yourself with Christ. So much with Christ that nothing else can come in and fill the innate desire that you have to worship in your heart. The Bible says in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. When you feel like you love God and you have done so much to love God, go even deeper. You can never love God so much that you are saturated and you can't do more. You can always love God, because the emptiness that you leave, like the little room that you leave, something else will definitely come and try to occupy it. Ensure that in all your dealings, you seek the Lord first. Ensure that in all the things that you're dealing with, you go to the Lord first. Ensure that when you have free time, spend it with the Lord. When you have made a commitment to spend time with the Lord, spend it with the Lord and show up every time. And when God fills you, nothing else will fill you. You'll be like Joseph. Joseph had all the right reasons. Well, not the right, there's never a right reason. But he had all the reasons that other people have to just, be like, I'm rejected, I was abandoned, I was sold. And power would have become a very easy idol for him when he got it. He'd have become so cruel, but he didn't, because his identity throughout was tied to the Lord. And that's how the Lord raised him. So in a world where there's different things that happen, choose to be a Joseph, knowing that whatever happens, God is the one who is in my heart, and he's the one who fills my heart. There's no void in my heart, and there's no space for anything else to come in. All right? So that's the word that I have for you guys today. I'm going to invite Uncle Marco to help us pray for everybody who feels like maybe there's something that you're dealing with. There's something that has sat in your heart, and you do feel like maybe an idol might be born out of this. I want you to think about that. And if you need prayer, you can come up front. I think there'll be some elders, some adult leaders to come and help you. Uncle Marco.